An analysis of latter-day prophetic eschatology requires a close examination of the specific conditions characterizing the restored earth. The millennium is defined as a transitional phase. In this era, the earth is renewed to a paradisiacal glory, a localized physical transformation of the planet. This temporary physical renewal stands apart from the final post-millennial eternal state described in Revelation, where sin and death are entirely absent. The textual parameters found in Isaiah chapter 65 provide the objective markers for distinguishing between these two states. Conflating these timelines misinterprets the prophecy. Understanding the exact nature of the restored earth requires a strict verse-by-verse structural analysis of Isaiah's vision. The theological through-line connecting Isaiah's visions is the literal physical gathering and restoration of Israel. The baseline state of exile for this prophecy traces back to the destruction and scattering of Israel by the Romans in 70 AD. That ancient dispersion remained the status quo until the post-World War II restoration of the nation in 1948. This section addresses the millennial restoration as outlined in the text. We now turn to the specific parameters of this prophecy. The physical return of the people to the land in 1948 acts as the historical catalyst, initiating the timeline toward the fulfillment of Isaiah's millennial visions. We begin with Isaiah chapter 65, verse 17. "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind." This describes the millennial reign, a localized repair of the world and its climate, rather than the ultimate celestial state. The text continues here in verse 18. "But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy." Jerusalem is transformed into a literal and symbolic center of delight. The physical city and its inhabitants experience a permanent state of rejoicing. We see the extent of this healing in verse 19. "I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people. There will be no more heard in it the voice of weeping, nor the voice of crying." The divine presence removes the sorrow, trauma, and mourning that defined the historical exile of the gathered people. This healing of both the landscape and the collective psyche of the people constitutes the initial requirement for a restored Zion. A defining textual parameter now appears in verse 20. "There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed." The text explicitly mentions the continued existence of dying and the presence of sinners. This diagram illustrates the shift in mortal lifespans. Premature death is eliminated, and human longevity extends to the point where reaching 100 is considered dying young, yet a boundary of mortality remains. Because death and sin are still present, this era is mathematically and theologically categorized as the millennium, separating Isaiah's timeline from Revelation's description of eternity. Regarding socioeconomic conditions, we look at verse 21. "And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them." This establishes absolute economic stability. It reverses the historical pattern of displacement, where invading forces seized Israel's homes and harvests. Verse 22 reinforces this. "They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands." The phrase "days of a tree" serves as a metaphor for deep roots and endurance, ensuring the elect retain the physical fruits of their labor. Verse 23 details the impact on the family. "They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them." The covenant blessing is generational. Offspring inherit a stable world, free from the historical cycles of war and exile. The resulting spiritual condition is outlined in verse 24, "And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear." This describes an omnipresent responsiveness from the divine, illustrating a state of uninterrupted communion. Economic and physical security form the structural foundation required for a gathered Israel to reach this absolute communion with God. We conclude the analysis with verse 25. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord. This depicts the ultimate biological and ecological harmonization of creation. The predatory natures of animals are removed, establishing a peaceful coexistence where violence ceases. The serpent, the ancient symbol of the fall, is permanently subjugated to the dust. This total biological reversal completes the physical and spiritual parameters necessary to establish the restored Zion. This concludes our overview.